When Emily first noticed the heavy drops sliding down the office window, she felt, just for a moment, that it was some kind of omen. She wasn't superstitious, but she was exhausted, the kind of deep, quiet exhaustion that slowly becomes part of who you are. It dulled her edges, softened her voice, and made her more patient than she should have been. The workday was ending, yet she didn't want to go home. Home had become a half-empty space, quiet but hollow. Her husband, David, was constantly working late. Meetings, client dinners, urgent calls, his phone buzzing like a living creature with its own needs and demands. She had stopped asking when he would be home. Whenever she did ask, she got the same answer: "I'm doing this for us." And somehow that always made her feel worse. Emily closed her laptop and stared at her reflection in the dark screen. The reflection was honest: the tired eyes, the faint line between her brows, hair pulled into a bun not for neatness but for convenience. She longed for something simple: warmth, attention, someone who cared enough to ask how her day went. A knock on the door jolted her. "Emily? You still here?" It was Jason, her coworker, the guy from the desk across the hall. He always seemed calm, his smile warm, his eyes attentive in a way that made her want to straighten her shoulders. "Just leaving," she said, mustering a smile. "Let's walk out together? It's pouring out there." She nodded. They stepped outside, and Jason opened his umbrella. They stood close beneath it, closer than married coworkers should. He talked about a broken report and an annoying email chain, and she listened, feeling strangely seen. At the crosswalk, he looked at her and said, softly, "You seem different lately. Everything okay?" She almost replied with the automatic, "I'm fine." But something inside her cracked. "I'm just tired," she whispered. "And lonely." Jason didn't rush with a response. After a moment, he said quietly, "If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here." Those simple words hit her harder than any confession could. That was the beginning. At first, it was harmless. A few messages in the evening, a shared joke, a voice note. Then she realized she was waiting for his texts with the same flutter she once felt for David. David kept drifting further away. They lived together, but lived separately. Emily didn't seek an affair. She didn't plan it. She merely stopped resisting the only thing in her life that made her feel alive. Jason became a habit, a comfort, a secret. One afternoon, he invited her to a small art exhibit. She said yes without hesitation. "You sure you're free?" he asked when she arrived. "Yeah," she said. "Nobody's waiting at home." The exhibit was eclectic, loud. But one painting caught her breath: a woman sitting alone by a rain-streaked window. A cold cup of tea beside her. A silent phone on the table. Jason looked at the painting, then at her. "That's you, isn't it?" Something inside her broke open, and her eyes filled with tears. He took her hand. She didn't pull away. Nothing happened that night, or the next week. They hovered around the boundary, whatever that boundary was. Was betrayal the first lie? The first deleted message? The first longing thought? Emily knew she had crossed it already. Still, fear held her back. Not fear of getting caught, but fear of losing the fragile warmth between them if they pushed too far. Then one evening, as she was gathering her things, Jason appeared beside her. "Drink after work? You look like you could use one." She should have said no. Instead, she nodded. They ended up in a quiet bar with soft music and warm lighting. They talked, laughed, remembered old stories. Then the conversation slowly faded, leaving a charged silence in its place. Jason leaned toward her. She could have turned away, but she didn't. Their kiss was soft, tentative, yet it shook her world. Afterward, they sat in silence. Warm, dangerous, dizzying. She began. "Sure," he said. "Let's just stay a little longer." Everything sped up after that. Secret meetings, deleted messages, a brightness in her days, and a new coldness in her nights. David noticed. One evening he said, "You've changed." Emily froze. "What do you mean?" "You're distant. We used to plan things, talk about things. Now I don't even know what's going on with you." She wanted to say, You were never here to notice. But she stayed quiet. David hugged her awkwardly that night, as if trying to remember how. She stood stiff in his arms, something inside her quietly breaking. A few days later, it happened. She had left her phone in her coat pocket. It buzzed. David walked past, reached for it absent-mindedly. He didn't expect to see the name. Jason. Who's Jason? He asked. Her heartbeat stopped. A coworker, she said too quickly. He handed her the phone. The message on the screen said, Miss you. When can I see you again? Silence. Emily, are you cheating on me? She wanted to say no. She wanted to lie. But her throat closed. And her silence was his answer. There was no shouting. No broken dishes. No slammed doors. David simply sat down at the kitchen table and covered his face. Why? He asked. Not how, not with whom, but why? She searched for words. I was alone, she whispered. For a very long time. He nodded faintly, as if acknowledging something he had always feared. Is it serious? He asked. Emily hesitated. Then she shook her head. The house became unbearably quiet. She moved to the guest room. David worked later than ever. Jason knew everything. She told him. He listened and said, If you need to step back, I'll understand. But she didn't answer, because she didn't know. 2 weeks passed, and one rainy evening, Emily realized she no longer had Jason's bright warmth or David's familiar presence. Her life was reduced to a hollow silence. She called Jason. We should talk. They met in a small park. The wind was sharp. The bench was cold. I can't do this anymore, she said. Because of David? He asked. She shook her head. Because I've been living half alive for too long. I need to figure myself out first. Jason nodded. He didn't beg, didn't accuse. He just held her hand for a moment, gently squeezed it, and let it go. That hurt most of all. David filed for divorce a month later. Calmly, quietly, they divided their things, signed the papers, exchanged polite words, and walked away. Emily's life became different. Empty at first, then quietly empty, then simply her own. One spring day, she walked past the same intersection where she had once stood under Jason's umbrella. A dad stood there with his little daughter. The girl laughed as she tried to catch sunlight with her fingers. Emily realized. Life moves forward. Always. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unfamiliar number. Hey, just wanted to know if you're doing okay. No signature. But she knew who it was. She smiled, softly, without pain, and turned off the screen. She was okay. And for the first time in years, it was true.